and welcome to another podcast. I'm your host, Bridgeburner, and this is Burning Bridges with said Bridgeburner. And today we have one Tristan Clark on with us. So how's it going?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good. It's good to be here.
No, it's yeah, we're looking forward to having you on. Actually, you've been on the show technically a couple of times before this, and always enjoyed chatting to you. You've got some unique perspectives with your kind of multi-talented kind of portfolio, and that's probably where I wanted to start first. You know, you're known for your composition skills, obviously, very experienced with making music, but you're also a fairly accomplished mapper. It's dabbing a fake praise slightly. That came out worse than I expected, than I planned. I think it's more that people don't know that you are also a talented level designer and have some pretty big works under your belt. But I wanted to, it's like, what came first? What did you start with on your creative journey?
Well, I started with mapping, actually. So even before I came to Doom, I started messing with Duke Nukem 3D modding.
My condolences.
Yeah, in at the deep end there, really.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, but this was 2011 or something, and it was I sort of set out on my first project with that, which was I was gonna try and recreate the Ultimate Doom IWAD in Duke Nukem, because original idea. If you're that age, that seems like a good idea.
It's an established tradition, recreating another game in a modding engine. It's I'm going to take this other thing that I love and put it in this other thing that I love, and I think it is not a bad place to start, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's right, really, because it helps me to I was able to sort of get to grips with how everything works without having to worry about making my own layout or anything. I think I actually managed to do all of episode 1.
That's quite a
bit. Doom. I mean, none of it was any good, mind you, but but then I came to the Doom community in 2012, and I did a couple of maps for a community project. Only one of those got released, and then I switched to music the next year, and that sort of just took over, because mapping, I mean, we'll probably come to this later, but mapping just didn't really take off for me.
Didn't gel perfectly. Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah, I've always had some kind of weird relationship with mapping, and with music I was able to actually make things, so that ended up just taking over, and I'm fine with that personally.
I think the world is fine that you've blessed us with your composition. So did you get into writing first, with a Midi writer, or did you pick up an instrument first?
No, I started playing the keyboard when I was about, I think, 2 years old. I got
that
tiny, I got a tiny keyboard thing for my second birthday, I think.
That's awesome.
And I never took lessons or anything, so I'm maybe not as good as one might expect for playing that long, but I didn't know what a chord was until 10 years later or something. But
so you know the thing you've been doing the whole time? That's called a chord. Oh. I just hit the keys.
I just I would just play random notes. It was I don't know. I had some sense of melody, but no. So I started playing keyboard when I was 2, and then I took up bass at the age of 11. And then,
because I always knew of you as a bass player first. Would you say that's your primary instrument, or because
definitely
watching you play, you seem pretty fucking good at everything.
Thank you. Bass is I consider bass my main. Keyboard second, then guitar and everything else down last. See, with keyboard, I sort of fell off of it for a few years, and like even now I don't play that often. Whereas with bass, I try to practice every day. It doesn't really happen anymore, but bass has always been a lot more consistent.
Yep.
But yeah, no. So I started like messing with like trying to write my own things. Probably around like 2011 kind of time, but I only did like a few very basic things using like the keyboard accompaniments that were built in and everything. So yeah, it was only really when I came to the Doom community and discovered like the Midi formats that I actually started to write music, because that opened it up a lot more for me.
Yeah, it's just so accessible, isn't it? Like the whole MIDI concept. It's like single program. I don't know what it was like in 2011, but certainly these days, like there's good free tools that you can use if it's like, I want to start writing music. Like, bang, here's the kaiju. Get stuck in.
Yeah.
And you don't have to know too much music theory to, like you say, just like kind of start throwing notes down that sound good together and see what comes out and put a drum beat underneath.
Well, I didn't know any music theory when I started, and only like in the last few years, I'd say like my music theory has actually expanded.
Well, you did study it.
That's coming to uni definitely helped me because I did a music degree, for people who don't know.
Finished now as well.
That's definitely finished. Unfortunately, I kind of wish I was still doing it.
Yeah, welcome to the working world. This is the rest of your life. Get fucked. For the people listening, for the people who will only be listening to it, Eris's face just said it all.
But yeah, what was I saying? So I think the beauty of like the MIDI format is that it allows you to focus on compositional elements, like just getting down like a good compositionally strong piece of music without having to worry about mixing, production, all that bullshit, because that is like a whole other world basically.
Yeah, and like if you're writing it with a out there in the real world, and trying to like lay all the resistance with the MIDI, you can just like, I'm just going to pick one and put these notes together, and you might fuck some shit up. You might do some wrong compositional things, but it's doesn't matter at the end of the day. It's also easy to go back and fix. So if you get someone who does know their stuff and they listen, go, this sounds really good, but these two notes aren't the same key or whatever, or this chord doesn't work with these ones for whatever reason. You could just move that along and up and down and shift it around, and it's just so easy to go like a map. Go back and edit it, rather than having to re-record your play on an instrument, on the guitar or on the keyboard or whatever, to go, okay, fuck, I've got to go play this whole thing again because I screwed up a section. And it's that experimentation ability, I think, that makes any kind of creative process more enjoyable. In the sense, it's quite similar to mapping, and you're like, I'm going to draw something here, and I don't like that, I'll move this line around, or change this line, or delete this section and rebuild it, and like with a MIDI you can do exactly the same thing.
Over time, I've sort of learned, like, I'm not entirely above cheating. Like, if I mess up, like, one note in a solo or something, I will just fucking go back and correct that one note.
That's true these days.
Just recorded, just like every time or something. I don't have time for this shit.
None of this single take bullshit. What am I, an artist?
Yeah, like I try and keep it like as real as I can, because I don't like the idea of cheating, but sometimes sometimes it's just not worth it. And I mean, every
album does it.
Every song you listen to has like some level of studio magic on it anyway. So.
Yeah, there are a couple of bands and albums that I can think of that are like single take recordings, and it's insane that bands can do that. They're that good, and when they can pull it off, it's got this like lovely organic nature to it. But it's like 0.1% of albums will actually have that kind of single take straight through, no tweaking of no auto tuning of anything at the end of the day. So you briefly touched on that you started with Duke 3D, but moved to Doom relatively quickly. And we will talk about your love-hate relationship with mapping a bit later on. So parking that saga to one side. Why Doom, and why still Doom? Like why have you stayed, especially for someone who has had a a troubled mapping career. Why are you still actually, relatively attached to the Doom community?
Mainly because I like the community, or at least like the parts of it that I've like been involved with over the years. Because like I don't like in the last few years, like my interest in Doom itself has even kind of disappeared. But I'm like so like deeply attached to the community now. It's like I don't think I could ever actually leave, even if I like never touched Doom again. But even like before the community though, like Doom was always like one of the games that I just like always came back to over and over again. I grew up with the PlayStation version, and
you're a big fan of that.
Like, yeah, I love PlayStation Doom. It is the Doom for me. And for 11 years or so, like that was the only version I knew. I didn't know you could actually get Doom on the PC, and man, I love PlayStation Doom.
I can just feel your face just lit up. I can feel the enthusiasm. It's great.
Yeah, like imagine like my surprise, like after 10 years and discovering there were new secret levels I've never seen before. What's this Fortress of Mystery? Like back then, I was amazed by it. Crazy, right?
Yeah. Wow, what is this? It's cool when you have that, both that like kind of cloistered experience that you can look back on fondly, but then your horizon expands, and that's also a good moment. You find, oh shit, there's all this extra content, like other port on the computer. You can make new stuff.
Like it was crazy. Like I was just like on like YouTube in 2009 or something, and just like finding, oh my god, it's like Plutonia has 32 levels. What's this? There's a Plutonia 2.
What's this monster? An Archvile?
Yeah, because like I was watching. I used to watch like Tatsued Kakako's UV Maxes. Like they were just like, I was just like amazed by like how many fucking like expansions there were. Because he had like all sorts of stuff like Community Chest, Alien Vendetta, I think Hell Revealed.
Oh, like even back then, there was just like almost limitless content. I mean, more maps than you could ever play in a lifetime, kind of thing. And there's the same thing for me. Actually, what got me back into certainly do mapping a few years ago was watching those YouTube videos by Tatsued Kakakako was one of them, and they are great to watch. Just watching. Particularly if it's like, oh, what's this new thing that I haven't seen before? Also, here's a really talented runner, blazing through it as well in a very, very satisfying manner. They're great, those videos.
His Max of Hunted was like one of the ones that really stuck out to me, because I've never seen an Archvile before. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. That's probably a good jumping off point to the next question, actually. So this is a bit of a blasé question. This is a pretty. I felt embarrassed writing it down, but I'm actually genuinely interested in your answer. But do you have any favourite Doom maps apart from PSX Doom? We'll put that over there on the pedestal. But not so much WODs, but like individual things that have really stuck out in your mind over the years, and you keep coming back to. Even if you don't play it that much, just in your head.
For me, like. I mean, we are going back a few years now for like, so I guess they're like old favourites for me, but it's like Genesis Map 10, Resurgence Map 31 is another one that springs to mind. Oh Christ, this is pretty like biased, but TNT Revolution Map 12. The reason for like all of these is because of like their atmospheres.
Yeah, I was going to say, what links them together for you? Like, why do you like them? And is it the atmospheric presentation, is it gameplay, or is it
like I don't know, like atmosphere is almost, I wouldn't say I hold it above gameplay, because obviously like amazing atmospheric map can still play terrible.
Yeah, if it's not fun to play,
and
that's
kind
of
fun.
You're not going to.
So like you do need both, but for me, like atmosphere is just like so important, and I think like those maps that I mentioned are really strong in that regard. I shouldn't have mentioned Revolution. Fuck. no, the Genesis and Resurgence maps in particular, definitely. Very top tier for me. Both with Stewboy midis, incidentally.
Do you reckon the music plays part of it?
Yeah, definitely for those. Actually, Stewboy's MIDI on the Resurgence map is probably one of my all-time favourite midis.
He's very talented.
Morning.
So, as someone who is very visually driven, I definitely agree. Like, yeah, there's a point where gameplay detracts too much. It's okay, this is just not fun to play. It's boring and grindy, or too unbalanced, or whatever. But once you reach a certain threshold of quality, okay, the gameplay is decent. And then once you hit that kind of point, for me, yeah, you can really carry a map through other design elements like atmosphere and scene setting, and yeah, that holistic folding in the music into it as well. I think even like something like Death's Vault 2's Unholy Cathedral, which does have some pretty decent gameplay. It's for me, because that is my all-time favourite map. It's those opening scenes where you walk in and there's the big organ in front of you, and the intricate layers of the crypts off to one side, and all those visual concepts just pop. That's whenever I think about what do I like, it's like, oh yeah, that's always top of the mind.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, I think it's very sort of natural that I would tend to like more towards these maps, because obviously coming from PlayStation Doom, it's a very like more atmospheric based take on the IWADs.
Very much so.
And I think people who like value like gameplay above everything else like so highly, probably I don't know, I can see why like PlayStation Doom might not appeal to them. Because like even like, I mean, playing with a controller aside, like, it's probably an easier version of the game. Like, everything's slower because of, like, technical limitations. Like, Revenants are just...
Because what did you... have you played Doom 64?
Not yet.
I think you'll like it.
It is heresy that I haven't, really.
Yeah, I think it is. The police are on their way.
Oh, God.
Well, everyone say bye to Tristan. This is the last time he was seen alive.
Yep, good podcast, guys.
Yeah, fantastic. No, that's. I think I might have asked you that before, because I'm not completely shocked. But I like, I'm like you. I don't have a huge amount of time for playing, but I would definitely put that high on the list, even if it's just the recent port by Night Dive. Because I'd never played Doom 64 or PSX Doom, and I played that last year and was just blown away by it. It was, just, again, that atmospheric content, Doom, it just nailed it, the soundtrack. Because it's the same music, both Audrey Hodges, isn't it?
Yes.
Just beautiful.
And a lot of the sound effects are... I think actually all of Doom 64 sounds are basically from PSX Doom.
Just fantastic, and it's... if I was going to be critical, I could still pick a few holes in some of the artistic design elements, but broadly, it's just so well designed and cohesive, and the levels are fun, and they're not too hard. So again, if you're not looking for something that's completely challenging or whatever, it's a great thing that you can go through. It's engaging enough, but not overbearing in its combat that you can't stop and appreciate the level design, because it is good. And I hate puzzles, and I even enjoy the puzzles in that. Yeah, definitely play it. This is your last one.
I definitely have to get around to that.
So, I'm not sure, like, it is, you are on the credits, but you certainly don't tout this too hard, but you made probably, or at least a good chunk of one of the most iconic maps in Eviternity, and this is ostensibly a level design podcast. How do you feel about working on that and like the whole process there? Because it was a bit of a bittersweet kind of journey, I would say.
Well,
how did it start? Like, take us through the genesis and creation of that map, because it's a hell of a map.
So the story of Elysium. Okay, so Dragonfly Josh, he brought me on to the Eviternity team around May of 2018, so fairly early in Everternity's development. So I don't think any of the Heaven maps had been made at that point. I was originally just brought in to do music, But like being like then like involved with the development team, like I started getting map ideas, and Josh said like if you want to do a map, just like pick an episode and I'll give you a slot. And I settled on chapter 6 Heaven map. I had ideas for that. Like I imagine like this massive sort of like open world kind of thing. And I started making that in July, and yeah, it's basically how all of my maps go. I sort of like start something and then like I kind of just lose steam with it and then end up like adding to it very, very slowly. And the thing was like time was just ticking along.
The development speed of Eviternity was ridiculous.
Yeah, like it was probably a bit too fast, truth be told.
I think Dragonfly would agree.
Yeah.
That kind of broke him.
But yeah, I started my degree in September of that year, which then that started eating into my time. I was also around October or so. I started on the Map 30 music, which that took me from then till like the end of development. Basically, like I only finished that track just before the first release dropped. Yeah, everything about Eviternity, like we were right up to the deadline on that one.
Yeah, nice.
But like with Elysium, like because I had it in my mind, like I would do like this big open thing, kind of inspired by Dobu's The Given, but it would have some combat with it. But I wasn't going to go like heavy with combat. I was going to have it like sort of more like sparsely populated. Something of like because I think I knew I had the map 29 slot at that point, and I wanted to do kind of a breather. Actually, yes, we did have a heaven map. We had map 28, and I knew so we had map 28. You know, big, massive, like slaughter light fight, and then obviously map 30 was going to be a boss map. So I wanted to do like a breather for 29, and I was going to have like sort of empty environments, and then like these pockets of corruption, which would just absolutely fucking crush you. In like it's like sort of like mini difficulty spikes within the map.
Yep.
And you can still sort of see that in the final map. Like you've got the whole like last fight where you go back to map 1,
the corrupted section,
and it's all like all corrupted by tar.
Because you've got that underground bit as well where you drop through the hole. And it's corrupted underworld kind of thing. Which I fucking love that idea. Yeah,
so like, I mean, it is the fight in that map, and actually, it was Josh that did this. Although I sort of edited it to make it sort of like fit thematically, but you've got that section in that underground section where like all the water just turns into tar, and then like a million astral cacodemons and all manner of stuff just comes at you, and it's
all manner of bullshit. My favorite.
Yeah, I'm so glad he put that in. Like astral caco swarm, exactly what was.
It's a fast flyer like that because HL's got something similar. Like it just because there's lots of fast ground enemies in Doom. Yeah, Revenants and your Archfiles and your Pinkies. Like you can do fast pressure on the ground, but the flyers are all kind of meandering and plodding. Pain Elementals a little bit because they fire a lot of souls at you, but it's more of a like I have to go over there and deal with that rather than that's going to chase me away. But having a fast flyer like that with a lot of projectiles, like a spread attack, hard to dodge, panic stations, and like the player runs at those things, they're going to follow you and they're going to follow you fast.
I think I'm allowed. I think I'm allowed to say this without being biased because I didn't make the Astral Cacodemon, but it is probably one of my favorite custom monsters ever in Doom. It is so cool.
Pre or post nerf? Which is like definitely.
None of us wanted to do that, but it just we were getting kind of slammed because of like that invisible fireball in the middle.
Was there an invisible fireball?
Yeah, so like what was happening? I think it was launching 4, but because of dehacked, we couldn't make it look like there were 4. So there was always 2 in the center.
Right. So it was like a double damage hit that you weren't expecting.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. So we ended up having to just change it to like a single Cacodemon fireball.
Because it used to have the Mank as well, didn't it? The Mank fireball.
Yeah, it was. Originally it was like 2 pairs of Mancubus fireballs with 2 in the center. And
Okay.
that would just like one shot you up
Yeah,
close.
yeah,
And I mean,
yeah.
it still kind of does that, but
It reminds me, yeah, exactly. It reminds me a little bit of Scythe 2's Freaked, which is another oft complained about enemy that I love, and the fact that it is fucking terrifying. And it's got this like volley attack that if you get hit by it, you're just dead.
Yeah, well, so I think the problem with that is only in that case, like it just has a bit too much health. Like
It is a bit tanky, yeah, a little bit.
It's such a bullet sponge, whereas the Astral Cacodemon has, I think, the same health as a regular Caco. In my opinion, it probably should have been a bit less, actually, maybe like 300, like a Revenant. But
Makes them scary glass cannons.
Scary glass cannon is a solid monster type. Like I love the reaction to the fucking Caco Swarm in 29. Like that was one of my sort of favorite things. Like watching people play Eviternity was the reaction to that fight.
Yeah.
Like, every time it was.
As a designer, that shit's just like fucking mana from heaven. It's just like get fucked. We're not us mappers. We're definitely not aggressive sadists. No, definitely not.
No, it's funny because like I tend towards like lower difficulties when I'm playing Doom, but it seems like when I'm making things, like I just don't care. I will be horrible.
I think that's pretty common. Amongst the majority.
Because I don't have to play on Ultraviolence, so I'll be enjoying myself on not too rough.
It's like, hey, testers, come and test this for me. It's beatable. They're like, yes, but fuck you. All right, very good. Carry on. Because one of the defining elements, and it's interesting you talk about that open world kind of concept with Elysium. It does still have those bones because the start of that map had inside that grand hallway and stuff like this. There's no combat in there. I think there's none. It's completely combat free in that zone, isn't it?
It's combat free until it opens up.
Yeah. So it's this great stoic, kind of awe-inspiring opening penultimate map, Godhood suite. It's just like it makes the player like, okay, I'm going to take my time and enjoy this, and just marvel at the architecture and listen to the music and look out over the balcony at the vistas. And I think it's actually a concept that I'm consciously trying to fold more into my maps, particularly for Age of Hell, because there are some large slaughtery fights that take a while to beat, and having those breather elements I think is important to give the player a bit of okay. And also to take things in and not wear them out, and like it's different, like something like Bastion of Chaos where it's just one map. Okay, we can bear down on the player for 4 hours and punish them like in every setup. But having something like Sunder, that makes it a bit more of a niche product. But I really like that part of that map. And one of the other things I'd say that and we have talked about this, is your penchant for some kind of crazy ideas. So when did the wind tunnel launch pads kind of come into the concept? Was that something you had thought about like at the beginning of the map, or was that more of a like, okay, we need the player to be able to get from point to point quite quickly, but we don't want to just use teleporters, we want to come up with something cool?
Yeah, they were always like, that was always going to be the gimmick with that map. This was something like that kind of evolved. So like my sort of, I'm going to do weird things that shouldn't be done in the Doom engine. Like that started
a visionary.
It started like over a year before Eviternity, because I started. It's another one of my failed projects, like a TNT episode, which I only made one map for.
That's still progress.
Yeah, and then it just sort of died. But like in this map, I had because the concept around this map was, well, actually, this WOD was like all the enemies were going to be like infected with. So basically, at the end of TNT, like it says like, oh, there's a blue light in the head of the demon spitter or whatever. And like I was thinking, like, okay, it'd be cool if this blue light was some kind of like infection corruption thing. Similarity to Elysium, intentional, by the way. It was like an idea I came back to. But yeah, like I was going to make like all the demons sort of more aggressive, infected with this like corrupt thing. And so I had like fast imps, and like I wanted to sort of like impact them in a way like that I couldn't do with D-Hack. So I thought it'd be cool to, okay, instead of like deploying monsters normally, what if I just like threw them at the player?
Yeeted them.
Yeah, literally yeeted them. And so I started like putting them on like these conveyor belts like off the map and just like launching them at high speed into the player's face. And I've got like this amazing gif or gif, whatever you want to call it, and just like the player just like dying immediately to like this group of imps that just flies in.
I love that trope, just like fling the monsters at the player.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't work consistently in both ports, because in PR Boom or the SDA Doom, they will just immediately snap to the ground if they're awake. Whereas in GZ Doom, they'll continue flying. So there was always a bit of discrepancy with that, and it sort of limited to me to how much I could actually do that. But that was only the start of my troubles in that regard. But then, like, that kind of evolved. Like, I did a map for Mayhem 2017, which was the Mario one.
Ah, yes.
Where, like, there's a secret behind the start, and it's like it's the question block. And, like, if you hit it, like, the armor rises up, like in Mario, and just flies off. It goes skidding away across the opening area. And then I did it again in Mayhem Orange. I mean, I think the standout, like, technical thing in that map is the bridge that builds itself and then decorates itself with the...
Oh, that's the one that comes out of the lava, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's very cool.
But there is also... I mean, it's quite easy to miss, actually, but there is, like, a fight where, like, these demons just, like, pour out of a, like, cave or something. They're sort of, like, launched in. But like that was all sort of like that. The launch pads in Elysium were like, sort of like the end product of all that experimentation. It was like, okay, if I can't do this with monsters, I could probably do it with the player. So I wanted to like have the player sort of like get around a map using this like propulsion method. And it turned out to be an absolute nightmare because, again, ER Boom and GZ Doom do not behave consistently. I had all sorts of like bullshit with the angle and everything.
Because you ended up being, because I think a lot of people, when they play it, I certainly did at the start, assume it is like a normal jump pad. But it's actually a wind tunnel, isn't it? Across a set of stairs, invisible stairs that take you up and back down. And so block lines that funnel you to...
Yeah, so you need invisible stairs. It's a conveyor belt, essentially. And, blocking lines on the sides. And the blocking lines are they make it really janky because, like, you'll get snagged on them, which is really annoying. But you need them there because, like, if I draw, like, the line vector, like, 215 degrees, in GZ Doom it'll be 215, in Boom it'll be 200 something.
Yeah.
So, like... It was a nightmare to try and get those like lined up properly, and I figured the best way around it in future would be to just like not build at like weird angles, just keep it orthogonal.
Yeah.
And so I tried that recently, and what happened was wall running. So I ended up getting line skips, and so the setup got even more complicated. So like you've got the launcher. And now there are like extra sectors on the sides of the launcher that are pushing you back inwards to the center, so you don't go to the sides. It is, and this is why I just want to go to UDMF. Like I've had enough of this shit.
No, I feel your pain because we had similar battles with one map in particular in Map Witch 2, and this is between Zandronum and GZ Doom, so two Z Doom based ports, but they've got wildly different air control. So there was a sequence of jumps in one map that was very much focused on jumping and jump pads, where you could make the jump in Zandro, but you couldn't make it in GZ Doom because you had that lower air control and you couldn't propel the stuff. Like, fuck. Okay, cool. We'll manually set the air control for this map in map info. The Zandro and GZ Doom read that differently. So that actually lowered the air control in Zandro, which meant you couldn't make the jump in Zandro. It's like, fuck. It's like,
Yeah.
no reason. You need to make this jump not so tight, so it works in both. I think we end up just adding another like a mid-span jump pad. It's just, yeah.
It is incredibly annoying to have to work around that sort of thing, because I did another thing in another map which isn't released, but like there's a monster who is there when you go past him, and like he doesn't wake up or anything, but when you go back to the area he's gone. And the thing is like it was working. It's like I don't know how I didn't notice. Oh no, I know why I didn't notice, because I couldn't actually test the map in PR Boom until DSD Odin came along. Actually, I was getting like signal 11 hours and everything I couldn't actually get around. But like it was working perfectly in GZ Doom, so I thought, okay, it's fine. And then I realized in Boom, he was still there when I went back to the area. And like as soon as the monster saw me, it would just like disappear out of existence.
Right
ahead. Like, okay, that's what you're supposed to do when I'm not here. Just go.
It's working, but like, why aren't you doing it before?
Yeah, it's like it was like everything I was trying to do was just like breaking in both parts, and I can't remember. I think I fixed it. I came up with like some alternative method, but I remember it, because I ended up going back to the vanilla method of just like pushing a monster with like a barrel explosion.
Yeah.
That teleports in, and it's like
it works. Go old school.
Yeah, sometimes vanilla is the way.
Because like you know, you seem to definitely always have some wild ideas brewing away, you know, for these concepts. And do you reckon? So this is where we're going to head into your bittersweet relationship with mapping. Do you feel like perhaps? Obviously, there's those port battles, which is something that, you know, most Doom mappers have had to deal with at some point. But do you feel like perhaps your ideas kind of maybe outstrip your ability, or if not your ability, then the engine's ability? Like you feel like you're thinking too outside the box, and that's a source of frustration?
I wouldn't say that. I think it outstrips my ability. Right. But initially, I wasn't always like this sort of like weird outside the box kind of mapper. Like I was just trying to make sort of like regular Doom maps, I guess, as they appeared in my head. But so like I'm able to like visualize like environments very easily. I find I'd say actually quite a fair bit of detail. I think that can hold me back, because then, like right from the off, I've got a very clear idea of how I want something to look.
And then it gets upsetting when you can't make it look like that.
Yeah.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, definitely.
Because, like, you know, you partook in a couple of the speed mapping sessions over the last little while, and like definitely like the scenes you've been able to create, like, it's stunning. I think it's that strong sense of visual certainty coming through. It's like, I know, but then you like, you know, kind of hit a point like, where do I go from this?
Yeah, see, I'm actually quite happy with, even though I didn't actually finish it, my Halloween speed map for this year, because I had like the visual theme in mind, and I was able to, like, I knew it wouldn't take like much time. It was like a very copy paste job with like minimal detailing, because that was kind of
that was the like corridor of street lamps, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, really cool.
And then like there's that room that's like just ripped off of like the liminal spaces account.
It's a good place to rip things off from.
Yeah, because like it has that sort of like minimalist aesthetic. Yeah. So that was easy, and I think that's actually my first released UDMF map like ever. But yeah, but like most of the time, like the environments I imagine are like a lot more elaborate than that. So like, because and I'm sure this is something we'll come back to later as well. Like I am planning a UDMF project at the moment, and like I can see like this massive like sort of vista for the first map, and like I'm not going to be able to do that.
Just like stuff like, do I really want to commit to this? Oh, fuck.
Yeah, it's like I already know. Like
I can feel the pain coming.
Yeah. Like I know it's going to be a nightmare.
Because a point. This wasn't so much a question that I noted down, but more of just an observation. But I think like you make music kind of like how I map. You know, very artisanal and sculpting and like bold and big and ambitious. And it definitely reflects in your mapping, kind of conceptually as well. Because I was having a conversation with someone earlier this week about like. If you invest too heavily into an idea ahead of time before you start work, then when you hit those roadblocks, because either the engine won't let you do it, or you don't have the skill, or it's just not coming out how you had in your head, it can get really frustrating and can hold you back. And it's something that I've had to teach myself is like, okay, cool, I want to make this thing. I've got this idea in my head, like you can picture it just like crystal clearly. I know exactly what I want this to look like. Start making it. Almost within the first hour, it's looking different. And
yeah, it's like.
You've got to kind of like choose to go, okay, it's not exactly the way I thought it would be, it's still good. Like, you have to actually go through a conscious process of like, no, this is still good, we're going to work with it, and that's where like the organic development of a scene can come out. But it is a tough kind of mental roadblock to get past.
There comes a point where you have to just stop planning and start doing.
Yep, for sure. Because I actually ended up, there was a point, I don't know, it might have been a year and a half ago or something. It was before Bastion of Chaos, I think, where I was planning too much, and I kind of lost my ability to just map, and see what happened.
Because I think with music, I've been able to sort of. Well, I wouldn't say entirely get out of that way of thinking, but I'm able to deal with it a lot better, whereas I don't think I've actually got that with mapping yet.
That's probably just a practice, like you've spent more hours making music than you have mapping.
Definitely.
Yeah, so, because, it does take you a fair... You're not like Jimmy or AD who can churn out, still very good stuff very quickly. Like, your process takes time.
I'm very slow, except for the rare occasion where I do like just knock something out very quickly. But ironically, in those cases, like I do have the entire piece like planned in my head before I start. But
I have a plan and it worked. Wow, let's do that again.
Usually those pieces are very simple. Like the Stellar Valkyrie hub map, like that is just like a chord progression that loops around again and again, just like. Adding an element until the end, and like I threw the first draft of that together in 2 hours, which is probably a record for me. The first track on my EP was like 5 hours to do the MIDI mock-up. I'd already done like a little jam beforehand, where like I basically just like came up with like 3 sections. It's like, okay, that's the entire piece. Like I don't need to add anything more to this. And so making the mock-up for that was very quickly, and then like even when it came to like the recorded version, like I did most of that in like one stream. That was like 10 hours or something, which is
just in the zone.
Again, that's
that's we all hunt that feeling where you're just making stuff and it's coming out good and you're just having fun and it's like this is perfection. Why can't this happen every time?
Yeah, and what's also quite interesting I find is that a lot of people, and I think myself, would say that is the best track on my EP as well, that first one. And it had like the shortest time put into it, pretty much.
Yeah, and like you can get into a bit of a chasing the dragon, finding that high again kind of moment with that. Like you've like, how do I enter that? How did I like mentally and emotionally and whatever end up in that zone, and how I can find it again, and like. You do get that again. This is something that can add to that frustration of design and creation, and it holds you back from actually doing anything. Like because you're like, I'm not in the zone. You're waiting for that perfect lightning bolt moment. You just end up you just wait. You don't get your work done.
Yeah, no, it's like it's always been a bit of a concern to me because like in the past couple of years, I found myself having to just like say, right, fuck it, I'm just going to put something in. And just leave it, which is not something I ever want to do because I always worry, like if I do that, like it's going to be noticed. Like people could say, "Oh, this just isn't inspired. It doesn't sound."
You can't always make your best work, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's like, I came to terms with that a long time ago, but like I always tried to like still make good things, and like when I know that something isn't right, but I just have to move on and forget about it. It's just like, oh,
yeah,
I don't like this. But then, like, so far I've gotten away with it because like the first time this happened was Aorta, and like that.
People love that. People love that song.
Yeah,
pretty sure it's Gazemo's like, favourite of yours.
Yeah, because it's in Sunder, isn't it? So, because that was the thing with that one. Like, I kind of wrote myself into a corner because, like, for me, like, there's that guitar solo bit in the middle, and like that's one of my favourite things I've ever written.
It's like, how do I bring everything else to this level?
Yeah, well, it's like I didn't know where to go from there. Like, I wrote this section and I was like, I don't know what to do with it anymore. I need to get back to, because I'd like changed key like 5 times as well by this point, and it's like, okay, how do I even get back to the original key? Like, this piece has to loop and everything, and like the way it goes back, I still think it's actually just kind of bullshit, to be honest. But like, no one seems to notice.
Well, I think it's important as a creator, and the more we talk, the more I think we are kindred spirits in these senses. Is like, you, the person who's made thing, will notice all those little hacks and cheats, and like, I'm not going to quite, bring this section up to the same level at least in your own mind. The general consuming public will never notice it. And it's only, you might get like another master of composition, like, who might talk to you and is like, this feels like a little bit of a cheat, or like I might make a map and someone who's sharp eye will go, this bit here, you got tired, didn't you? But it barely ever happens. So I think that's.
Well, it was funny. Someone once said that about Irony and Isolation from Revolution Map 12, and it was like, it sounds like you ran.
Just hang on a sec. You're gonna just move back from your mic a little bit. It's getting quite crackly. I think the closer you get to it, the worse it gets.
Oh, it might be like a peaking thing.
Yeah, that was getting very crackly there. That's better.
Maybe. Okay. I'll just sit back.
just relax.
For the podcast. But no. So like for Revolution Map 12, like someone said about like the MIDI there, like it sounded like I ran out of ideas like in the middle. That's actually not the case. I ran out of ideas at the end. That's why it's the end.
It's like, yes, but no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny what people like. Yeah, people pick out of things like you're kind of there, but you're completely wrong. Yeah. So like you've been getting a bit back into a bit of mapping, and you've been talking about hinted at this UDMF project that you've started. What's going on there? What's the plan?
So one of the things I want to work on is sound design. And I'm a complete novice at this, which is why, like on Still Valkyrie, we've got Ben doing an amazing job with the sounds instead. But like I need the practice, and I figured like, okay, I should just make my own project where I'm able to go, just do what I want with this sort of thing. So I came up with the idea to just like do like a UDMF map set, I guess, where like I replace every sound effect in Doom and like make additional things like ambiences and stuff, and just like build like this sort of like atmospheric project around that idea basically, and I sort of want to do it as like a love letter to PlayStation Doom, because I figure like as well with sound design you don't want it like to fight with the music too much, so I'm thinking just like I'll do like a dark ambient sort of PlayStation Doom inspired soundtrack for it. And so that's, I mean, I've not really put anything down yet. It is still just an idea station. Like I don't know if it's actually even going to come to fruition. I'm going to try my best to.
I think like even if you don't really make any maps, you could make like a kind of proof of concept map or something. But the idea of using the Doom assets as a starting point to get into that sound design, because I definitely think that's a good idea, both from a creative outlet, but also a professional, string to the bow, as it were, because you have gotten into some game dev work. You were working on the bird game.
I'm working on the bird game.
Space Bird. I mean, Stella Valkyrie. So, what was that like? You know, getting approached by Ty and say, I want you to work on. I'm giving you a job, a paid job.
It was surprising. I'll say, like, he DM'd me like September last year, and I felt like, okay, I guess he wants me to be on his podcast or something. Even that seems a bit strange, because who the fuck am I? And then, like, he gets me into a voice chat and then starts, like, saying, okay, I'm making a game, I want you to do the music for it. I'm just like... yeah, and then, like, there was a Discord server, and, like, we started assembling people. Uber, one of my old friends from Z-Demon, as a level designer, and then, like, Scumheads coming in with, like, the textures. I think that was it for, like, the original team, actually. It was
I think that was just the three of you to start with.
Yeah. And then the idea that the game we were going to make, actually, it didn't take off. And so back in January, we were going to do... like, we started again, basically. We started from scratch.
Oh, I didn't realize there was a previous concept.
Yeah, yeah. I think, like, Ty has alluded to that as well. Like it just didn't really mesh with Scumhead's style.
He does have a very specific style.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was just like a bit of a sort of artistic clash there. So I think that was just kind of shelved for the time being.
It's important to be able to make that decision early on. You know.
Yeah, because we had barely done anything at that point.
It's like this idea isn't bad, but this team is maybe this is the right team to put it into fruition. Just and that's what happened. To point to a similar scenario, that was the original Quake development was like that. It was like we got this idea. Oh no, the engine's not quite ready. We're pushing things too hard. Let's make Doom instead. Or Doom 2, I think it was. Because you get to that sunk cost fallacy where you're like, we've started it, therefore we've got to finish it. So yeah, I think big kudos to like go, nope, put that over there, we'll start something new.
Yeah, because I mean, nothing was getting done with it anyway, because there was just like that sort of, I guess, I don't want to say lack of drive, but like it was just hard to actually make any progress.
Well, I think it's like if like your lead artist,
if it's not gelling, if it's not gelling with the lead artist, like you can't.
Nothing's going to happen. It's like they're not going to feel excited to work on it. No one else is like, well, we don't want to jump in too quickly because you need the art assets to start with, and it's like it just kind of stagnates. So.
Yeah, and so like I don't actually know how it went down because I missed the meeting. But like I just woke up one day and like there was like this
we're doing birds. Like, oh, okay.
well basically it just like posted a load of like 80s like space art in one of the channels. It's like, okay, what's going on here? Are we making a new game? And it's like
maybe.
Like, yeah, maybe. Okay. And so like that was like the original Valkyrie planning, like that first weekend. And so I was like, okay, I'm thinking this is going to need like synthwave music or something.
Which does gel with
I've
you
never
quite
done
nicely.
synthwave.
Well, but you like synthwave, like you're a...
Yeah, well, it's funny, I was just getting into it because this was around the time Nevernos introduced me to Slipstream.
Yes, I was thinking about that.
That's been like my game of the year, basically.
Yeah, perfect time. Well, it's interesting because, like you're saying about, like the team not gelling with the concept originally. You're not the only person to say, but like that thing that like I've got this burgeoning interest in this genre that's going to work here. It's like when you get that kind of like serendipitous meeting up of events, you're like, fuck yes, I'm excited about this idea. And
it's like so even though I wasn't at the meeting, like. The concept for Stella Valkyrie was basically something that everyone was like really resonating with, and that's why we've been able to run with it. Because like even before, like I even mentioned synthwave, like they Uber and Scumhead had posted things in like a music channel or something, and it was it was Jean-Michel Jarre or something. It's like, okay, yeah, we're all on the same page here.
The minds are meeting. We're all thinking. Yeah, we're all like independently of each other. We're heading down the same path. This is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because and like as someone who does put a lot of care and takes a lot of pride in their work, like has the fact that it is technically a paid job, a commercial game, has that been easier, difficult, just more of the same for you? Is it?
I've been thinking of it as just more of the same, really. Just like, obviously it's going to be a lot more work, but I mean, like, it's quite, we're not like speeding through it. It's not like it's Eviternity. We're not like making the whole game in like a year or something. So like it's going to be a lot of work, but I'm not too worried about it as long as I can get into a good flow and everything. It'll be fine. I think the main thing really is just going to be making it sound good, because it is a new genre for me and one that I've not. I haven't listened to synthwave or anything for years. So it's still there's still a lot to learn, because I don't even know like how to use like synthesizers that much. And there's like having done I've done 2 tracks now, and like using stuff for that, I'm like starting to be able to move away from like presets and stuff. Like the hub track, I think I actually made all the sounds for that from scratch, actually, using
That's cool.
like Metal Neon sent me like a link to this emulator of the Oberheim OBX, which is like a classic 80s analog. So that is just all over the hub track, and I find that one quite easy to use. And then there's other ones that just like completely baffle me.
It's like, how do you put this sound into music?
No, I've got like I've got a plugin called DexEd, which is emulation of the Yamaha DX7. I do not understand a single thing on that interface. Like, what is going on?
I think it's really cool with like synthesizers and stuff. How you can, I mean, it's obviously like these days there's VSTs for all instruments, but like how you can essentially reprogram a keyboard to sound like another keyboard. Because I know I'm looking at like John Rudess from Dream Theater has set up like he's essentially got a fucking stack of computers next to him. And it's just that concept's I've always found really fascinating. That it is at its purest, it's a synthesized sound, but comes out in a I guess in an analog fashion. Playing on a keyboard, and out comes the sound. But that whole idea of like just like being able to pinch, like not just here's a guitar tone, but here is a specific synthesizer. Like from the 80s or whenever, here is that sound. This machine that was made, I can play this now and see what I can do with it. I've always found that really cool.
Yeah, I think that's a really great thing as well, because those old synthesizers are not being manufactured anymore. And so unless you want to like shell out like hundreds or thousands of dollars for like the original hardware, like sort of emulators are the only way you're gonna be able to get that sound, because they all have their own like unique qualities. Which is why you end up with like millions of them.
And then because it is a synthesized sound, it's like the emulators are actually pretty good. Electronic guitar set tone, created guitar tone. It's only really recently, I think, started to match or easily match like a physical instrument.
I'd agree with that. I think that sort of works both ways, because as well, like, not only are the VST guitars getting better, but I think also the way metal music is being produced, like in more recent years, is becoming increasingly
gent.
Getting
very, very clinical, very crisp.
Almost a bit too much for my liking, I have to say.
Yeah, no, it's a bit of a. It's an interesting conversation. I do like my gent, but I do understand when people like miss the rawness and the warm tones of a genuine guitar. Some dirty grunge from the '90s or some old school thrash, and you can say that's a bad mix, but it's not. It's different, and it does definitely have a different feel to it.
It's like more raw, I guess, and I think sort of more recently, I think you're starting to see like metal tracks where like the guitars are, even though they're like recorded live, like they're sort of like so clean that they sound more MIDI than actual MIDI guitars.
Yeah.
In a way.
You're not wrong. It's a style, and I imagine it'll swing to another style in 5 or 10 years or whatever. But it's definitely the popular tone. I mean, you see Jared Dines, one of probably the world's kind of up there with some of the best guitarists in the world, and certainly in terms of like people who a known name of good guitarists. He's actually started a band with Howard Jones from Killswitch, and which does sound mighty fine. But you're seeing these. Kind of like seeing your virtuoso but very clinical guitar tones actually, spreading out into the mainstream a bit more. It's not. I don't think it's a good or a bad thing. It's just a thing. But
no, it's just. I mean, if you don't like it, don't listen to it.
Yeah, there's plenty of music out there.
There's more music and more variety of music than there ever has been in the history of music. So
it's a good thing.
It's why I don't buy into the idea that music was better in the 70s.
Yeah,
it's just like it's not like
for every
because you still get stuff that sounds like the 70s today, really.
Well, and even like the 70s had Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and these and Black Sabbath and these titans. But there's plenty of shit. It's like you remember you remember the good stuff, but also if you can point to a Led Zepp. I'll point to an Earthside, as a like kind of compositional geniuses and people doing things out there and that is unique and stands out. There's more of those kinds of artists, I would argue now, that are or at least accessible through things like Spotify and YouTube and just the internet in general. Because I remember listening to the Dream Theater released. They stopped doing it, but they had a fan club. And every year they'd release a unique album for that fan club, and they did things like they had the live recording of them playing all of Master of Puppets, and all of Number of the Beast, and like various like one was a 2003 Grass Pop concert. I've got a few of them that I hunted down off eBay, and one of them, and this was so cool. This is the coolest idea. They sent out the time signature sheets for Stream of Consciousness, and told people write a song. And then they released the 7 best on an album. And there is some like phenomenally good stuff on there. Like as good as Dream Theater. At their peak kind of thing. It's like how are you people not famous? And this would have been, I think, 2005, and it was just a little bit before musicians on the internet started being able to like get their wares out there a lot easier. And now these kinds of artists, people like your Jared Dines, or your Tristans, or your Primevals, you can put your music on Spotify for very little, or onto YouTube, or Bandcamp, or SoundCloud, or pick your hosting platform of choice. And it's great seeing, these kind of passion project composers starting to get a bit of recognition, a bit of distribution, potentially some money, I think it's fantastic.
I feel very blessed to be living in this time period, I suppose. If I was this age in the 70s, I wouldn't be doing. I probably wouldn't be doing music, to be honest. Like, it's become so much more accessible.
Definitely.
The software's gotten better, the technology.
Well, it pairs up with the same kind of thing with game design. Like, it's so easy to start something up and get into a project and like pick an engine. Like so many of the tools are free, at least initially. It does the licensing changes when you start selling stuff, but in terms of like being able to learn a skill and build up a portfolio and get a name out there, is there's a myriad of ways you can do that. Which there's all sorts of problems with the world at the moment, but and problems with the internet. But that concept, I agree. Like we're very blessed to kind of be riding a bit of a crest. On that wave at the moment. It's very, very cool. So you talked about wanting to get into some sound design as a new skill. Are there any other, like, I mean this from a professional sense, would there be anything else? And the one I'm curious about, would you get into professional level design at some point, or are you kind of just focusing on music and sound at the moment?
I'm sticking with like audio mainly. If I was going to get into level design, it would be sort of like more environment environment artist, I suppose.
It is a job. It is a job. Yeah.
It is a job. I don't know what they do.
They make things look pretty.
I can't draw. I don't know if that counts. I know nothing about that side of game dev. But you know, like I'm able to, like I said, I'm able to visualize environments. So I imagine that could be used for something if I could actually like put that onto a canvas.
Into a skill, yeah. Find a skill set like a tool to bring that to life. Because some of the 3D art that's created, like even just not for games specifically, but just like you go on ArtStation, there's some phenomenal stuff out there.
Do they like use like Unreal Engine or something to like render?
I don't. Oh no. I think it varies. Like I think some of it's just literally a digital painting program.
Okay.
And they to create just scenes. There are people who just do that for the pure art of it, and then there's concept artists that'll use that and design a scene, and then people who know how to use the engine, here's what you're working from. And like the whole like concept artist as a job. And they can go into like monster design or weapon design as well. And it is just using an art platform, not a... I mean, some of them do it via models and stuff like that. But there's definitely a niche for that in a professional sense, if that was something that you decided you were interested in, if you ever got bored of music. Because I think you do. You do have a good eye for it.
That does sound interesting. But it sounds interesting. It's it's something I would consider if I did get bored of music. I don't think that happened, to be honest.
No, I've been going for 20 years. If you're starting at 2.
More than 20 years.
Very cool. So with I think given that you do have your foot in two worlds with your bit of a level design background and a bit of a music background, do you think you... Obviously, there is a relationship between the music and the map, or the music and the game. Do you think you've got like a better kind of sensibility, natural grasp of that? Like, looking at someone's map and like you're going to write a track for it, yeah. Do you think that is that how does it take us through the process? I guess, or what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know, because like. I mean, I'll look at a map and like I'll get something like an idea for what the music will be like. I don't know if my involvement with mapping in the past has anything to do with that, because I think it's just like sort of a natural. Well, I don't want to say natural, but like something like a composer should have anyway.
I think it's probably more a product of good relationships with the mapper or with the game.
Yeah,
just knowing how they think.
Just being able to like tap into like what you think like the energy of the map is, and like that relationship.
I like that term. Tapping into the energy of the map. I like that term.
Yeah, but just like shit.
Just make the music for it.
Yeah.
No, I think it was a poor question, and because it's a complicated thing.
Well, this is my brain starting to finally go to mush with making words. No, it's like it's like this.
It's just like the thing. Just make the music.
It's like okay, I'm doing this on purpose now, but no, like with composition, like it's a very audio-visual task. So if you're good at composing music for audio-visual, like you're going to be able to tap into the energy of the visual.
Yes.
Anyway,
yeah.
So I don't know what sort of impact my mapping would have had on that.
It is a tough one because, like, okay, I'll just delete all my mapping experience from my brain for a second.
Because, like, yes, I don't know different as well.
Do you ever write the music first, and then like not even just for Stellar Valkyrie, just in general? Do you like write the track and then someone makes a map from it? Have you been commissioned to do that kind of stuff before?
Has that happened? Because I do prefer to have a visual to go off. And that is usually how it works. There have been cases where like I've had to make the track without actually seeing anything. I'm trying to think what those were. Revolution has some like that. There was so the track Hell's Furnace, which plays on map 20, was actually going to be for a different map.
Right.
So like it was going to be for the map 21 slot, and that map 21, not only did I never see it, it never actually got made. And so it ended up, the track basically just ended up as like this like homeless piece, basically. Still attached to Evolution, but it didn't have a map slot, and it ended up going in Phobos's map 20 with the massive great hallway. And I think it works really well there, so you know, I'm perfectly fine with how that went. Frozen Wilderness was another one. Same project, it was written for Revolution, because map 32 in Revolution was going to be this ice map. And Jaws in Space, because there were so many attempts at making this map from like various different people, and they were going to make it for Frozen Wilderness.
Right.
They were going to base it on the track, and it just never came to fruition. Jaws in Space made a map. It wasn't a great map, and he ended up like pulling it from the project, and the ice map concept just died there. And so Frozen Wilderness never appeared in Revolution, and then I don't think it ever appeared in Doom until Eviternity, when Antares used it on his map.
Which is a frozen map. That's really interesting, actually. No, because like some you know, I'm thinking of your Jimmies in the 80s, like can just sit down and make some songs. And go, who wants to use these? And like, you know, 80 recently did it for 1K Alliance. It's like, I'm going to make some tracks. And you know, even though I knew he was making a track for me specifically, he made the music without seeing the map. He just like, I'm just gonna make it. I was like, what kind of song do you want? I was like, something pretty epic, and you know, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, like it happens, like because I've done like a bunch of like standalone midis that have then gone on to like inspire mappers. I mean, Aorta was written not for Sunder.
No, true. Yeah.
Like I don't know if Gazebo made map 32 before.
I think no. I don't know if
I think he already had the map.
I don't know about specifics, but he does like to listen to the music while he's mapping.
Yeah.
He does. Not. Yeah. I don't know if it's specifically for that, but that is part of his process, and he does choose his midis quite carefully with the map concept in mind. And Aorta does fit the Harlot's Garden very nicely. That's a perfect pairing.
Honestly, it probably fits the Harlot's Garden better than the map it was written for.
Yeah, no, it's just got that evil tone to it that matches but it's got a grandiosity as well, and it's quite haunting, and that massive mansion, it feels like abandoned by the giants that once inhabited it, and it does fit really well. Apparently, it also goes well with Cyber Demon rockets. A lot of Cyber Demons in that map.
I mean, the Panophobia map is hard, but it doesn't have like that crushing atmosphere that you get from Sunder. Yeah,
that oppression. Just like, I am not meant to be
here. I don't think it could without being Sunder. Yeah. Really, like that's a hard one to emulate.
No, for sure, and like as someone who has drawn a lot of inspiration from Sunder, there's still nothing quite like Sunder. That design is both in terms of the gameplay and the visual presentations is just utterly out of this world. Gazebo's a freak, and we love him for it. All right, we've got some audience questions. Before we get into them, there's some good ones here. Was there anything else you wanted to cover off?
I don't think so. I would just like as an addendum to that last section. Again, with Revolution, actually, Ionian Isolation was another weird one because that was the first track I was ever asked to write for a project, and so I saw like one screenshot of the map. I think that was all I had to go on, and they said they wanted it to be like a Doom 64 kind of inspired,
which you still haven't played.
And so yeah, well, I mean, PlayStation Doom. I just sort of. I went for that Orby Hodges vibe.
Yes.
So I made the track, and then it was for TNT 2. Then there was the big fallout. The project split apart. And then Revolution formed. They sort of did a bit more of the map to make it fit the MIDI more.
Right, oh, that's good.
So it's sort of like they sort of fed off each other, and then a few years later, Dobu came along and sort of like completely like changed like how the map ends, and it's really because of him like transduction is a map that sticks out to people, because he, again, like using sort of like the Midi as inspiration, he like completely overhauled how the end plays out, much more atmospheric, added some new areas, and just turned it into something really quite special, I think.
Nice.
So that's actually a case of like it was like both ways around.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the like if you're going to call like an ideal creative process, like having the two creators feeding off each other, and kind of like that, and kind of like with you were talking about with Stella Valkyrie with the new concept, and like all the various artists like feeding off each other's energy and all heading down to the same path. If you can get that relationship between your composer and your level designer, then the things will gel together so nicely.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. It's time for the audience questions. We're going to start with the ones posted in the Discord, and then if anyone in the chat has some, we will go through those as well. We'll start off with a nice, easy softball, because I know there are some curlers here. What is your favourite fast food restaurant and item?
Well, see, I don't do favourites, so
that's easy.
Yeah, can't answer that one. No, I'm quite enjoying the McDonald's breakfast menu lately.
Yeah, because I generally hate fast food, but McDonald's breakfasts, they're pretty good. Sausage McMuffin.
They're pretty good.
Yeah.
I had those. I had one of those this morning.
Yeah, no,
because they put one in. They put one in my supermarket a few years ago.
Oh, that's evil.
Yeah, well, I was thinking like they had it all like boarded up for months. I was like, I don't know what's going on in there. And then I walked in one day and there's the M.
Yeah,
and I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. That's stupid.
Like people walk into the supermarket, they're doing the shopping, they get hungry, they walk out. All right, that is deliberate.
I was like so opposed to the idea of McDonald's in the supermarket, and now I am just like going in there like every week.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they lace their the fucking muffins with cocaine because they're so addictive. Something
in them.
Someone I worked with, his wife. Someone he knew worked at the bakery that made McDonald's split muffins, and he came like one day into the site with like a fucking sack. I mean, like hundreds of the fuckers, and it's like, sweet, take it, boys. It's like, okay, and like the first, I had like 10, just slice them in half, toast them, bit of butter, just. I was like, these are not food, and I can't stop.
Yeah, it's like sometimes I wish I could have two or something.
Oh,
it's not good.
It is not.
But I couldn't be bothered to cook last night. So
no, and like I remember, McDonald's used to like their breakfasts. I don't know. They definitely they'd stop serving them at 10:30, and then they're like, people really like this. We're going to do them all day now. It's like,
oh really?
Dangerous. But
yeah,
I do.
No, I don't think they do that here, but I'm always in the shop very early anyway. So
you're nocturnal. That's right.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about missing it.
All right, I've got a question from Dunn. We have kind of gone through the first, which was when and how did you start composing Midis or music in general? So that has been covered quite extensively. He started writing music when he was still in the womb.
Well, no, I didn't. I mean, I started writing music a bit later.
I'm being slightly
and like with Midis, it was the Plutonium Midi pack. That was like my first proper foray into writing music.
There's some good songs in there.
Yeah.
And if you if you are at liberty, tell us a bit about the origin of the yob.
I'm not. You may be surprised. I'm not entirely familiar with the yob lore.
Yob lore. I mean, it's a Mario character to start with.
Well, yeah. So basically, I mean, everyone knows it's Blue Yoshi. Well, actually, like the origin of this was, I think it was a Tumblr post in 2016 or something, and it was someone saying they had a dream where they met Yoshi's dad. but his name was Yobby, and they were kind enough to fucking draw Yobby as they saw him in their dream.
That's fantastic.
And that's like the original Yob.
That's fantastic.
Not Yobby 3, by the way. But like, and then that just became. I'm guessing what happened is the Super Mario World community just like picked this up and ran with it.
Started doing fan art of someone's weird dream.
Yeah, because like I had someone like say they were from like the Super Mario World community and like they recognized my Yobby avatar. So it's like, okay, there's something bigger going on here, because I know
some Illuminati level shit.
Yeah, because I found the Yobs through Nevernos and Aquila, who were using them all the time. They got them via people like Arias and Jackaden, who have made quite a lot of
the Yob farmers.
Yeah, like most of the Yobs were made by those two and like some others.
There are a lot of Yobs.
Like that, that's mostly where it comes from. But I think there's something bigger at play.
Something sinister.
Yeah, Yobby is a cult, and I am only the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, no, it is definitely a cult. Tristan is the pleasant face outside at the doorway, and you go in. And it's like, hi, would you like to learn more about the Yob? And then, like, deeper within, there's dark things.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know nothing. I just like Yobs.
They are fantastic. It's hard not to like the Yobs. Particularly, Lobby is still probably my favourite. Although I am quite partial to the Judge Yob.
Judge Yob's good.
Yeah, Judge Yob's good.
I like all of them.
Yeah, you have no favourites, as you said before. You love them all.
Yeah.
This one's from Kapali, and I think this is somewhat adjacent to what we were talking about a bit earlier. It was like being both a mapper and a musician. Have you ever developed a level? I'm interpreting this as you. Have you ever developed a level that's been inspired by a music track that you've made?
Yeah. So this is one I mentioned earlier, but it's an unreleased map. You've seen it. It's the 500 Torches. Hell. I mean, yeah, I don't know if that's ever going to be released. It's just like I'm just using that as a testing ground for like weird ideas. But atmospherically, that was going to be the first map of an OTEX project. Again, another mapping project I came up with that never went anywhere. Weird that. But yeah, no. So. That is like the atmosphere of that is designed entirely around the Infinite Labyrinth. Probably my darkest MIDI. Maybe I don't know if it's one of my most popular. It gets used quite a lot.
I'm pretty sure I've used it in one of the speed maps as well. If you recognise the name.
Yeah, it crops up like fairly often, but I don't think it's necessarily one of my best known. But like it was in Tangerine Nightmare. Simple used it very recently, and it's like one of my own personal favourites, just because like the background of it and how it turned out. But there is a map that I did. I made it for that MIDI, I guess. I think that's the only example, actually.
Now we get to the hard one.
No, it's a simple. It's a simple.
It's the first question. We can park this for a little bit. No, that's a great question. What is the most difficult part of composition, and what do you wish lay people knew about it?
Is Simple even here?
He just
dumps the question. He just dumps the hardest question and then
just like
okay,
tunnels off laughing. Yeah. Deal with this, fuckers.
Okay, the hardest thing about composition, I think for me, it's getting an idea to like stick to actually come up with something beyond like the initial burst of creativity once starting a piece. Because a lot of the time, the way my creative process can go is I'll start a track, I'll think it's cool, and then I don't know what to do with it, and then even with music, like this is what always happens to me with mapping, and that's why I never release anything.
I was going to say, I think it's very, very common in mapping. Like, people will start something,
Yeah.
a cool idea, and then they run out of stuff. What do I do after this room? I made a cool room.
Yeah,
don't know
and
what happens next.
Yeah, and it still happens to me with music, just not as much. But like, I'll start something, I think, okay, this is cool. I don't know what to do with it. It gets shelved. It never gets released. Or I'll start something and then end up hating it. You know, Battle of Chaos. I think you've used that in Speed Map.
Yes, yeah.
Like that MIDI never got made because like I just hated like the first 20 seconds after I started with it, and I somehow managed to get that MIDI finished. But yeah, I think that is the hardest thing for me. Is like sticking with an idea, and there's all sorts of like cop-out answers I could give to this as well. It's just like, the hardest thing about writing music is making money from it.
I think that is a fair point, though.
The hardest thing about writing music is getting it to loop when you're not in MIDI format. I'm not salty.
There's your current battle.
Fuck's sake, man! And I can't play. Yeah, Wolf gets it. Pop. That fucking click that comes from the waveform not being at 0 at the loop point, even though it is. Yeah. I'm so upset, and I can't even like blame Jeezy Doom or anything. Like, that is just an inherent part of like looping audio.
Yeah.
Oh man,
this is the face of a man suffering.
I still haven't figured it out yet, by the way. That is still something I need to bash my head against with that track. And then hopefully I'll find a way of like, I'll find a method. Well,
hopefully Prime, because I think Prime's the best at it that I know, certainly.
I see you there, Prime. I would definitely drop you some messages.
Yeah, he managed to get it working in several different ways in the Bastion of Chaos tracks.
Yeah, because it's like, even if I solve the click, there's still an audio tail issue that I need to get around. And that is very stumping me at the moment.
Because I think everything I've heard him write is like, it loops, and it's like you don't hear where it loops once you get into it.
Yeah, that is the goal. You're not supposed to know that it's loops, basically.
So it is possible. I mean, Brian probably sacrificed several small chickens to a dark god. You need to find the right god.
I've done it with. It's a lot easier with audio. I've done it with like ambience and stuff, but music is.
And imagine like with a MIDI, that's because you can like line the notes up perfectly. At the beginning and the end.
Well, it's not so much that, other than like in a MIDI file, the notes that hang over the edge will actually just keep playing when the MIDI loops.
Oh, okay, so you can just kind of bleed it together.
Yeah, so it's like if you have like because like sometimes I'll end a MIDI like I'll have like a cymbal roll or something that like fades in, and like there's no cymbal at the start, so you don't hear this cymbal like crash at the start of the MIDI, but when the MIDI ends, you get this cymbal roll fades in, and then the MIDI loops, and it just keeps going. So it's like a percussive kind of loop.
So when the song starts, it's not there, but when it finishes, that ending sound will roll through over the beginning as it loops.
Yeah, I think all of us do this actually as MIDI composers. Like, if you listen to like a MIDI, and like at the end there will be some sort of like kind of like whoosh effect or something.
Something that hangs.
Something to bring it back around. And like cool. In MIDI, it's just so easy to do that. Outside of MIDI, not easy, not at all. And I'm very upset.
Well, I think there is a market out there for MIDIs, but I think if you're going to get into the pro game dev scene and stuff, like, it's definitely something that you're going to have to get past.
I'm pretty burnt out on MIDIs, I have to admit. I'm quite happy with non-MIDI, but there are definitely some
new challenges.
New challenges.
So the hardest thing is looping.
Yeah, and I believe that is a question that's coming up as well.
So we got
maybe not right now, but
got one from Wolf. He's got a couple actually. Do you ever just slowly work on a track bit by bit sometimes? And I think that's kind of your main work method, kind of chipping away at things.
Yeah, although I think I could answer like the most extreme cases with this, because I think Wolf also asked like, do I come back to a track like long after the fact? Which is, I guess, because I have a few examples. So a current example is the Earth boss theme for Elementalism, which has taken me since January. I've been working on that track, and as Bull will attest, like initially it was like I had about 2 minutes of audio, and like I was like, oh, I don't know if I can actually do anything more with this. Like I write this, and it's just ended up like ballooning to about 13 minutes long.
Sounds like my maps. Just keep adding more on. I should stop. I can't. Just more.
Yeah, it's. I think it's the first time I've gone over 10 minutes in like probably about 3 years. I think your
the dark track.
Yeah,
that's
I think
11.
that's the last time.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's, and like I'm still working on that. Like I haven't like finished the orchestration. I need to record all the bass and guitars and stuff. I'm basically just waiting to get new bass strings, and then I think I'll be able to actually do the bass track.
Nice.
For that, I've been practicing quite hard. It is the most difficult thing I've ever written in terms of playing it, and I think the rhythm guitar is going to absolutely suck.
Actually, I think that's worth pointing out because I don't think we have focused on it. But you actually play your instruments for most of your composition, which I think is awesome.
Yeah,
it's very impressive.
Yeah, like I try and include it in some way in like most of the things, rather than relying on like, because like at the end of the day, behind the live instruments, it's still MIDI data, and it's just, it adds a bit more of like your personal character, I suppose, if you can add like your own instrument, because your playing style is unique to you.
Well, your
like
music,
regardless of your ability,
and like your tracks always have, I think, quite a unique and defining melodic touch to it, and I suspect a lot of that is actually because you physically play them, the instruments, and yeah, that I think now that I think about it, it does it pays off. It's been worth doing.
Yeah, it's like I try to. I mean, with like sort of Valkyrie, like synthwave, it's going to be quite difficult to do that. But I'm still trying to like. I mean, you can put like guitars in synthwave, so I'm trying to do that. Like the hub track has a bass solo, which is that's something I put out on Twitter a couple of months ago when I was doing it, and it's like the way that came together was like,
it's very cool.
I figured like, because that's more like a vaporwave kind of track, so everything's like, like the drums are detuned by an octave to give it like this sort of like lo-fi kind of vibe. So I figured bass would work as a melody instrument, just to use like the upper register, because it's not too high pitched.
Well, like
synthwave
is adjacent to other electronic forms of music, and drum and bass is one of those.
Yeah.
So there is definitely precedent, like in I guess adjacent genres, peripheral genres around the synthwave. So I think it might be something a bit different and not usually done, but it should gel quite nicely. I think having a bass-driven melody.
So I just put a bass solo in the hub track, and I just like, it was the way I write solos is just to like improvise again and again over the section until I land on something for all of it that sticks. And so that's how that came about.
That's very cool.
And I'm really happy with how that track's turned out as well.
You've mentioned the hub track a lot. I can sense your pleasure with your work on that one.
Yeah, it's also because I've been working it on at the moment. It's like it's the one I'm trying to get to loop. But it's like when I wrote it, I was just like listening to it for like 3 or 4 hours after.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, I stayed up a bit too late.
High on your own supply.
Yeah, I kind of got lost in the vibe. Nice. It's rare that I get those.
That's very cool.
Moments from my own music, so have to indulge in it, I suppose.
Definitely, 100%.
I don't want to sound like I've got my head up my ass, but
nah, it's like there's enough self-deprecation and people feeling imposter syndrome. Fuck, if you feel good about your work, it's that. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
I'm thinking I haven't done enough self-deprecation for this. But
No.
So on balance, the World One theme for Stellar Valkyrie is complete shit, and I hate it.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Order has been restored. Artists hate themselves. Yeah. No, I think if you make something and you're happy with it, fucking embrace that feeling. Feel good. Eris After Dark Wing.
20,000 followers on Twitter.
Okay, there we go. You heard it here.
Make it happen.
Yeah. Note this time in this place. It's been witnessed. All right, I'll get one from Antares, legendary mapper. D-Hack Master. And I think we've covered this question. Instead of participating in various community projects, any plans on making your own map set? And I think there's been lots of plans.
Yeah, there are plans. Again, I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but there have been many plans over the years, haven't there? I've mentioned so many failed projects, and that doesn't I haven't even mentioned all of them.
Well, I think
shoutouts to Iridian Twilight, which was a UDMF project I started in 2013. But I think probably
was that the rainbow one?
No, this was before the Rainbows. So the Rainbows again, that's another one that never came to fruition. I was doing Rainbows before it was cool in Doom.
Exactly.
Train
setter.
No, I think Iridian Twilight, I'm actually okay with that just never happening, because GC Doom has come so far now. From 1.7 or whatever it was back then.
Yeah. Well, I think
so I couldn't make what I wanted to, and I think because of I'm going for a sort of more spacey PlayStation Doom idea with my current thing, it's probably going to be what Iridian Twilight wanted to be anyway. So
Well, I think cool. You use the term failed project, and that is I think it's a fair term to use, but I've got 15 years of on and off mapping stuff scattered around hard drives that's just will never get released. I mean, I might release them just as a bit of a joke, come see my old shitty maps, guys. But I think time spent having fun is not time wasted. And if you enjoyed it, you might feel bad that it never gets released.
Yeah, I mean, because you still learn things.
Yeah, exactly.
From the experience. So actually, maybe failed project isn't quite the right term, but
because people do beat themselves up.
Better.
That's mothballed, Because people do going back to that. If you feel good about your work, embrace it. Artists, we generally are a troubled bunch. We beat ourselves up a lot over the things that we ostensibly love to do, and I think particularly with hobbyist stuff. You are doing this for fun. You're not obligated to release this. If it never sees the light of day, who cares? If you enjoyed it, if you learned something, and that's more than enough. More than enough justification for the time spent, particularly when you're younger as well.
I mean, I was 16 back then or something.
16-year-olds do nothing useful.
Yeah.
At least a failed mapping project is, or an unreleased mapping project is way more productive than what most 16-year-olds do. I like this question. This is a follow-up, another one from Antares. If you had to pick one of your soundtracks, or songs, I guess, that represents you as a musician, like a chef's signature dish, which one would it be? You did mention the Infinite Labyrinth. Oh, Infinite Library, sorry. It's Labyrinth.
That is one of them. It's hard because, for me with music, I never want to just stick to one style, one mood, one genre. The Infinite Labyrinth, I feel definitely represents my darker side, as does Aorta.
What an emo.
I mean, yeah, pretty much.
He says he sits in his dimly lit artist studio,
I sort of hate the whole like romanticized depression thing. But I wasn't in a good place when I wrote the Infinite Labyrinth, and I think that is very much reflected in the track. And I love the track for that. Now it's.
Well, I think, like, you know,
I mean,
it's...
honestly, I'm not doing much better now, but it has been like 5 years. But I'm still able to like just look back on that track and like, yeah, okay, I made something out of a bad thing.
No, I think that's a good way to look at it.
Happy
like,
with.
You know, because I'm also not a fan of romanticized artist depression, because generally sad artists don't make anything. But if there is a time in your life where you can, like, where you are drawing upon, you know, something painful or negative and make something good out of it, well, that is a good thing. And yeah, if you can look back on it and go, okay, cool, that was a shit time, but I made this cool thing and I'm really proud of that. And that, you know, black card, silver linings, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I should add as well, like, because you said, like, you know, depressed artists very rarely make anything. I would say, like, I was actually making very little in that time as well, because this was during the Rebirth MIDI pack.
Right.
I had like 1 failed attempt at map 24, like 3 failed attempts at map 29 before Thanatos came along. And I was just like, oh, this just isn't fucking... I was just kind of like out of it.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how the Infinite Labyrinth came to be, but it just sort of did. I think I made it in like 2 days or something.
Well, there's kind of fugue states where you kind of enter it, and then when you pop out, it's like, here's this thing that I made.
Yeah. I genuinely cannot remember much.
Which, I think
about that.
Public and media love to, like you say, romanticize that kind of thing, but it very rarely happens. You know, majority of artists are their most productive when they're in a good headspace and happy and content and can relax. Because I think creativity does often come from kind of loosening of yourself. You know, and feeling confident means you can experiment. People who don't feel good about what they do won't push boundaries. Or are less likely to. And it's confidence bordering on arrogance is actually not a bad thing when it comes to.
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
Certainly, you don't want to be a dick, but like inside yourself, like, yeah, I can do this. I'm going to try this cool thing. This is going to be, and like your wild kind of mapping ideas, like, you know, even attempting them is still takes a bit of guts. You know, I'm going to try this, put this time in to this wild idea.
Yeah. See, the thing is with the mapping, it's like I kind of like accepted, like, I'm just not that good at sort of traditional mapping, I guess. You know, actually, my Mayhem Orange map plays pretty well, but apart from that, like, I just do not understand how to make good gameplay. So I kind of just said, okay, what can I do instead? And I sort of landed on like weird outside the box.
So what am I good at? Where do my talents lie? And that's the other side of that coin of like confidence is like recognizing, okay, I'm not so good at this thing. This thing I am. So you do have to have a self-critical eye as well. That's important.
Recognize what your strengths are and play into them.
For sure. And you know, you can spend time improving where you're not so strong. You know, go, okay, identify this one area. I'd like to get, like, it's not just like find the thing you're shit at, it's like find the thing that you would like to be better at. Because
I try to like stay away for a couple of years from writing like excessively guitar oriented stuff. When I started like playing stuff in my music, because I'm, you know, I alluded to this, I'm not much of a guitarist. Bass and keyboard are my instruments, I guess. But while I've been not doing as much guitar-focused stuff, I do feel a lot better at guitar. Like, my rhythm playing is still kind of iffy. But I can play some decent guitar solos.
I 100% agree. Like, I know that bass is your best instrument because I know you. But you know, those montage videos that you make, which I fucking love, it's like try and pick the instrument that you're best slash with. I can't. They all sound great. Like, and it's, you know, you're sticking within what you know, playing within yourself. Which is a term I love.
Because the thing you'll also notice, like, if I'm playing like rhythm guitar, like, it's going to be quite basic, like power chords most of the time. I can't really do like these like chuggy complex riffs or whatever.
That works with your composition because they are melodically driven from the keyboard and the bass as well. You don't want a complex rhythm over the top of that because you'd lose it'd get to it'd bury all those lovely melodies that are coming from the other instruments. So it works well.
It's what scares me about it's what scares me about the Elementalism track actually, is because like that's one where like it's very Dream Theater inspired. So like for a lot of it, the rhythm guitar is actually doubling the bass.
Right.
And it's like I can nearly play it on bass now, but transferring that to guitar is going to be an absolute nightmare.
Going to be a journey
for me.
I also really like that. Like I've written the song, now I have to learn how to play it. I like that, and that.
Yeah, it's like I have said so many times I'm going to stop doing this shit, like writing above my skill level. It's like
if you can get through it, though, it does make you a better player at the end of the day, and that goes back, that experimenting and pushing past your boundary because you've got that confidence. That is definitely an example of that. Writing music that you actually can't play yet, and then rising to that challenge. And I guess if from a mapping perspective, you could do the same. Like, I want to make this visual concept that I've never made before. Let's see how this goes. Or here's a fight that I've made. I think it's good, but I can't beat it yet. Cool. Let's just get better at it and tweak things here and there. But rise to that challenge. And I think it's a great concept musically as well.
Yeah, I mean, it does work. The only thing I worry about with it is like I'll be able to play it, but it just won't be as good as if I was already better. So it's like the ideal process for me would be to be like a few steps ahead of where I'm actually at with music. So, because like for actually getting better at bass, for example, like I've been learning. Last year I spent a lot of time learning Metropolis Part 1 by Dream Theater.
Good bass song.
And I'm basically there with that now. So I moved on to the Dance of Eternity. Which,
you did too, didn't you?
Yeah, Panic Attack is an absolute nightmare. I need to practice that a lot more.
That is an exercise in endurance. That's an exhausting song.
Yeah, there's a few I line up for endurance. Panic Attack is one of them. Stockholm Syndrome by Muse is one of them. Because I should say also with
good bass line.
With bass I play with fingers. I don't use a pick. So keeping that 16th note rhythm going for like long stretches of time, like dugga 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 dugga, that can get very tiring. Yes. And so Stockholm Syndrome is like that all the way through. So that's a good endurance test. Panic Attack again, like that is like 16th notes a lot. Road of Resistance by Baby Metal.
One of these things is not like the other.
Yeah, well, see, because I've also, with the whole like Dream Theater thing, I've also tried to start like playing with three fingers, like John Myung does. And you get to a speed eventually where you have to do that.
Right.
You cannot just alternate two fingers fast enough to play 16th notes at 200 BPM.
Yeah, for sure.
And so this Baby Metal song is 205, and it gets really fucking tiring because like once you bring in the third finger, like that's a whole new layer of endurance training.
It's a new technique as well. Like it's not just more of the same of the two finger walk. It's like that rhythm is very different.
It's a completely new level because like for most of the song you've got. I mean that's a very Dragon Force-y song, so it's that rhythm like like really fast.
Yeah, which is
really
a very classic kind of power metal beat.
Yeah, it is that rhythm, and the way you do that on a bass is to do middle index and then the ring finger middle index for the fast 16th bit.
Right, so you go two fingers and then three fingers.
You alternate between 2 and 3. And
it's making my head hurt just thinking about it.
Yeah, I've gotten it down quite well now at this point. There's going to be some of it on the Elementalism track at 220, which is about as fast as I can actually do it. The real headache is because I mean, three fingers it's great for triplets and this other rhythm, the power metal one, because it's just like 2 plus 3 for a beat. But then 16th notes, you're playing groups of 4
with 3 fingers.
Yeah, and I'm still really struggling to get my head around that, like trying to like play it.
Because you're not only doing that, you're also then trying to hit specific strings.
Yeah, I've noticed so I've been watching a bit of Felipe Andreoli, who's the bassist for Angra, and
I didn't. Yeah,
he's absolutely incredible. He's done like Dream Theater bass covers.
Yeah, good prog power band, Ingra.
Yeah, prog power, I think. And I've noticed like the way he does like these long 16th runs is like to actually just stay on one string. As much as he can. So like, I'm trying to like consciously do that now instead of like trying to go fucking.
Try and put like I want to be John Myung, but let's just put that over there for now.
Yeah, well, I think I don't know. I've not. Well, I guess like John Myung, he does actually change string because like there's the change of seasons thing where like that's his left hand exercise, but trying to do that at speeds on the right hand is going to be an absolute mindfuck as well because that's too fast for two fingers, I think.
Just get a Chapman stick.
Yeah. I looked up the price of those. God.
Not cheap?
Like,
no.
Yeah, they're like $3,000 or something.
Yeah, no, that's that might be a 30th birthday present or something. Yeah, when you're a rich composer. Who was your favourite bass player, actually? If you have one.
I don't do favourites. No, so I've got a few for like different reasons, I guess. So Chris Wilson, Home of Muse.
Yeah, so he was fucking phenomenal bass player.
He's basically the reason I switched to bass.
I love Muse.
Yeah, because I originally tried guitar, and something about it just wasn't working for me. Chords in particular. And I was getting into Muse at that time, and I could see like Chris Wilson Home playing, and I was like, I kind of want to play that instrument instead.
That kind of it does make it look cool.
Yeah, and then there's also Steve Harris, cliche answer for metal bassist, but
Iron Maiden, eh? Yeah,
Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
This is where I should say Geddy Lee, but I've not actually listened to that much Rush.
I'm not a huge fan of Rush, and Neil Peart is a phenomenal drummer, but I'm just like I just never could get into Rush.
I have struggled. I do want to try and give him like.
I find it all a bit
more
thin,
time.
a bit thin on the ground musically for me, which is interesting because Muse is quite a sparse sound as well a lot of the time. But no, respect to Rush, talented as fuck.
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
incredible.
John Myung, obviously, one of my favourites. I guess Adam Neely, the YouTuber. He's an amazing bassist. He's sort of been the reason I've been like pushing into like sort of like more melodic like bass soloing.
Do you rate Flea from Chili Peppers?
Nah, I've not actually listened to the Chili Peppers.
He's pretty, especially live. He's actually a very talented bass player because the Chili's are another very bass-driven melody because Frusciante's guitar style is very ethereal and over the top. So floating over the top, not like over the top grandiose, but like it's very light and sprinkly. So the bass carries a lot of the melody. Very heavily bass and drum driven, and especially live, they fucking unleash live. A lot of like funk players will hold Flea up, I think, for like slap bass playing. But, he's a lot of fun to watch as well. He is a Flea.
Yeah. If I actually listened to the Chili Peppers and was inspired by Flea, I'd probably be able to play slap bass. But as is, I'm still not that good. Here's a wildcard answer as well. Favorite bassist, Commander Meowch from Twerp.
I don't know what is with me.
Space lion. Literally a space lion playing the bass guitar. He's amazing.
Is that why you got the hair? You're trying to emulate the Space Lion look?
Yeah. All I need is like the lion mask, and I could probably just pull it off with my hair.
Space Lion cameo and Stella Valkyrie win.
That's got to be a thing.
Yeah,
that's got to be a thing.
Just like taking notes.
Scumhead, Jaw, Space Lion.
For reasons, just do it.
Just one more favourite bassist, I will say Frederic Leclerc, ex Dragon Force, because I mean I know everyone hates them, but they were my gateway band, and
I won't tease you about it. I won't tease you about it today. I promise.
Thank you. Like when I was starting to play bass, they were my favourite band. So I spent a lot of time learning Dragon Force songs. I didn't play them properly back then, but
I think...
No, I can. So I'm actually I'm technically at the level that I wanted to be when I was starting.
That's good.
Which is,
that's not nothing actually. If you can look back, it's like I'd like to learn how to play these songs, and you're like I can do that now. I've hit a goal. And as much as I do like to tease you for liking Dragon Force, 2K I think I listened to them when they were kind of at their worst. But also gateway bands, good. Get people into good music. Fuck people who say, "Oh, it's mainstream." If it gets you into something and opens up new genres to listen to, that is a force for good in the world.
Yeah, and honestly, in defense of Dragon Force, I think like the Mark Hudson era, more recent, is actually they kind of addressed like a lot of the main issues people have with them. Like the general sound is still the same, but like there's definitely more variety. Like they have like sort of darker prog stuff. That's probably not going to stick though, because that was Frederick Leclerc, the bassist, and he's gone now.
Right.
He wrote some of my favourite Dragon Force songs, as well as some of my least favourite, to be honest. But songs like "The Sun Is Dead," absolutely amazing for me.
Maybe I'll have to give them another chance and check some of them out, because I do like my power metal, and my criticism of them was way too repetitive. We're talking back in probably 2009, 2010. I think they came here.
I think my favourite album of like the original era is probably the last one they did in 2008. The earlier stuff doesn't appeal to me as much anymore, I have to say. I would say if you're going to give them another chance, I'd say check out Maximum Overload or Reaching into Infinity. The albums, those are probably the most diverse.
I do know that name.
The bassist, Overload. Yeah, the bassist had a lot of input on those albums with the writing.
Oh, that's because like that's relatively rare, I think. Looking at like writing credits and stuff, seeing outside of prog, having a bass player have a heavy input on songwriting, particularly metal. I think like bass players are often a bit relegated.
Well, I mean, the thing as well with this guy, like he's actually probably a better guitarist than Herman Lee and Sam Totman. So
being a better guitarist than Herman Lee, that's pretty impressive.
He's a bloody good guitarist. Because actually, Herman Lee didn't want to recruit him as a permanent bassist because of how good he was at guitar.
It's like, you come do this. You're better at this.
Yeah.
No, it's, I mean,
Anyway, that's my Dragon Force tangent for the stream. I suppose it had to happen.
No, it's you're the guest, so we'll allow it this one time.
Remember, anyone who wants to give me shit for liking Dragon Force, remember, you all like Blood Rush for some reason. That wouldn't have happened. That wouldn't have happened if I didn't like Dragon Force.
Exactly. Like we said, out of great tragedy, good things can arise. Here's a question from Bobby. What was the most formative project for you? I guess we're going to talk compositionally, and that could be something either you listened to or made yourself. But was there something that kind of defined you as a composer? Yeah,
I think at least as far as things I worked on concerned, I think that would have to be TNT Revolution. I don't know if it's a bit of a cop out to just use the first one.
No, I think that's fair.
Because that was like, because I mean, I did the Plutonium MIDI pack before that, but then like, as I said earlier, like then I was approached to write the MIDI for Transduction, and then when Revolution split off of TNT2, they hit me up again. It's like, okay, we're gonna go with like an entirely original soundtrack for Revolution. Do you want to do some things? And like that gave me like the early experience of like just like writing for maps that didn't already exist.
And here's a lot of slots you can just like get into it and yeah.
Because there were a lot of like tracks I started for Revolution that just never made it. Like I just never finished them. So yeah, there was some. That was I think that was very formative. As
I think that's fair. The second question was about musical practice, and I think we've covered that pretty well. So here's one from Jimmy, and we have talked a bit about half of this question, but yeah, how did you find the transition from working with General Midi to full digital audio production for commercial games? Difficulties and obstacles. Clearly, that's looping.
Yeah, shall we get me started on looping again?
But I think you're already making songs like that for things like Elementalism, of that digital production.
Well, see, this started in 2017 when I decided, okay, I want to get into this digital production stuff. So I figured the easiest way I could do that was just to remake my MIDIs with live instruments, etc. Because again, it was sort of the reverse of what I said about MIDI earlier. It's MIDI is a great way to hone your composition skills without worrying about production, which is entirely different fields. So in remaking my MIDIs, I could just focus more on the recording and the production while not worrying about the composition.
That's
there's a reason. With albums from bands, there's a dedicated role of producer.
It's a full-time fucking job.
Yeah, it's an entirely different beast.
Yeah,
so,
it's definitely its own skill set.
So I embarked on that project, and I mean, honestly, a lot of them just aren't very good, the remakes, but that was kind of the point.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I was going to say, I think the first song of yours I heard was your full rendition of The Forgotten God.
That's one of the better ones.
Yeah,
and when I followed that up with that came between, because that was the Revolution MIDI pack. So before that, there's the full rendition of Beneath the Stars. After that, there's the full rendition of Haze. Beneath the Stars is not great. Haze is probably the worst of the bunch, actually. For the time I made it, that is probably one of the best remakes I did out of those early ones. And then it was sort of sandwiched between two really bad ones. And yeah, the remake of Haze was terrible.
Why do you think that one was better? Were you just a bit of luck, or better original song, or?
I think it was just. I think it was just a case of just luck, I guess. Because they were very different tracks, so I was trying to lean into the atmospheric nature of Haze a bit more, and ended up just completely overdoing it with the reverb. But that was kind of the point. Was I never was setting out to make them bad, obviously, but it was there as a learning experience.
Oh, exactly. So
with Haze, because it was terrible, I later understood why I was able to avoid making that mistake in the future.
That sounds again. It comes back to that. That's time well spent then.
I wish it had been better, but I also don't regret, I guess, how bad it is. But, if people are going to my YouTube, just listen to the original MIDI.
That's funny,
don't waste your time with the remake.
And Taras' question about what's your, if you got a signature track, and for me, I was Forgotten God. That's the one that jumped out as this is the quintessential Tristan sound. Love that song.
I do like that chord progression.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I use that one a lot.
It's got beautiful melodies, got some bit of heaviness in there. It's got that that kind of slight neoclassical power metal undertones, and I think that translation adds. I think actually adds to this song for me, at least. The complexity of the original composition is well reflected in a full digital production.
Yeah, because the original, the MIDI is kind of restrained by the polyphony limit as well. Polyphony? Polyphony? I don't know.
Polyphony? It's one of those words I've seen written down but never heard actually said.
Yeah, but that's it does affect that track. There's towards the end, I think the organ cuts out a bit, and it's okay, yeah, that definitely benefits some the fuller arrangements.
For sure.
Not being restricted.
Question from Zen: is there a genre that you'd like to tackle in the future? I mean, you're obviously getting into some synthwave now, which is new for you. But is there anything else that kind of tempts you?
Synthwave, yeah, jazz. I've not done much jazz because that's quite a recent sort of interest.
Quite a different style, walking bass lines, and you might have to learn a bit of slap.
Yeah. Well, see, yeah, because like I did in my second year of uni, I was the bassist, well, a bassist in the uni's jazz band.
Oh, nice.
Which was, very out of my comfort zone there, because, like, I mean, I can read music, but I can't read bass clef that well, and I cannot sight read, especially bass clef. So that was very challenging, but I eventually did get a feel for the songs. Some of them, like, because, I mean, there was another bassist, so, like, if there was something I couldn't do, I'd just give him...
Yeah.
just give him the lead. But no, that was I really enjoyed my time doing that, and it's a shame the pandemic shut it all down. I would have liked to have done that for the rest of my time at uni, but just wasn't able to, sadly. But yeah, no, I definitely want to like off the back of that do sort of more sort of like big band kind of music.
That'd be cool.
I don't know if I should say this, but like the Scrapped in the Keep game was going to have a jazz soundtrack. I think I can say that. That doesn't really give that doesn't give much away about what the game was. But it was going to be a jazz soundtrack, and also I don't have it yet. It's been delayed, but my fretless bass, once I have it, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot better suited to that kind of music anyway.
Kind of playing around the note that jazz is so good at. Yeah,
and it's like they sort of inherently sound more like upright bass.
An upright
anyway,
the upright has no frets.
Yeah.
So you get that kind of thicker note.
I'm very excited for that.
Okay.
Just to
good shit. What brand is your favourite bass? It's from Warren.
Well, I guess I'm an Ibanez guy.
Good,
yeah, because I haven't
good metal brand, the Ibanez.
Yeah, I haven't like played loads of different basses. Like the one behind me here is basically the only bass I've played in like the last 10 years or something. The amount of time I've had it. So, and the fretless that I'm getting is also an Ibanez.
Musical instruments are so expensive, it's kind of hard to just go and buy a bunch and experiment with them.
It's like you'd have to go to like a guitar shop and like try a bunch out, basically. Not really possible at the moment. Well, no, I guess it is. But...
Yeah, certainly a bit more awkward.
Yeah.
What is Dingwall?
Dingwall basses have a really nice sound from what I've heard of them.
Right. Okay. So that wasn't just a meme from Warren.
No, that wasn't a meme. Like they are like properly nice basses.
Yeah, I'm relatively.
I like Ibanez.
I'm relatively familiar with guitar brands, but definitely not. I think the only other, like, I know Fender make basses and PV, or they're more amps.
PV is amps, I think.
Yeah.
I think because like, I think the sort of bass brands like that you're most likely to know are the ones that also make guitars, like ESP, Ibanez, Fender.
I can't think of any dedicated bass brands like that only make basses.
Dingwall's the only one I can think of right now.
Christopher from Creepy Rebel, and we're adjacent to your favourite bass player question, but what are who has been your biggest musical influences? So not so much specifically about specific artists.
Yeah, I guess it's like composition.
Clearly, it's Dragon Force.
Dragon Force for the power metal, as well as Stratovarius.
Yes, Stratovarius.
Oh shit.
I mean, I do hear a bit of Dream Theater in your style, I think.
They've started to creep in as well in the last couple of years, especially with that Elementalism track.
Yeah. Melodic complexity.
Nightwish as well, I guess. I don't know, like, my influences are basically just all the things I like.
Yeah, yeah.
The Slipstream soundtrack.
Yeah, what are your musical influences? The good stuff. The good stuff.
The PlayStation Doom soundtrack for Dark Ambient, the Medal of Honor soundtrack for Orchestral, which I haven't really tapped into that yet, but like that's where I want to go with orchestral music. That kind of Michael Giacchino on Medal of Honor Frontline, amazing.
Are there any particular are there any particular game OST? I mean, you mentioned Medal of Honor, but like and Slipstream, but are there any other like maybe in amongst the new one like the boomer shooters? Are there any particular like composition pieces that you're particularly drawn to from? I'd like to emulate that kind of be it a whole shot or a primeval or a Levy.
Probably not, honestly. Like, they're all like amazing, like Whole Shot, Levy, Primeval, but their sound is one that I don't really want to go for myself, I guess. Especially like, particularly like the sort of like Doom Eternal or Doom 16, like sort of like industrial gent sounds.
Well, you were saying you're not a big fan of that like crisper, overly produced tone that is very much.
I mean, it's not like I don't. It's not like I don't like the music or like what they're making. I think they're all great, but it's just not what I want to do as a composer.
I actually think that's quite possibly a strength, though. Like not going like I want to sound like the Doom Eternal soundtrack. It's like I want to make my own thing, and then because it is hard to make unique anything. Because I mean, like the Stellar Valkyrie soundtrack isn't going to sound like Slipstream. It just like it already doesn't. You got a bass solo on it. Who puts a bass solo on a synthwave song?
So it's like that kind of thing. It's like you don't. I don't want to just like do what's already been done. I just kind of just want to do my own thing and just go with that. Even though, because like the influences are like I've always said like. I said like my influences are just like everything that I like listening to, but like that's all going to get thrown into a melting pot. Like there could easily be like fucking Dragon Force inspired synthwave at some point in the Valkyrie soundtrack.
I think that would be a fantastic thing to try.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's going to be boss themes. So.
Yeah, something with that upbeat driving, but with a synthwavy, construction. That sounds like something that would work.
Yeah. Because I mean, like. Compositionally, genres aren't all that different. I feel it's more about like their instrumentation and production values.
It's like how you can design if you're designing a level and you make a room in an environment or arena or whatever. How you detail and texture it at the end is what it feels like. You can make these walls bricks, and all of a sudden it's a medieval castle. Make it all concrete. Well, suddenly it's a fucking culvert. Pipe. And same thing with music. It's like, what are the instruments that you choose? I mean, you pick them first, but a song that sounds like a metal song when it's guitars will sound quite synthwavy if it's made with a synthesizer.
Yeah, well, it's like like the 4 chords of pop music, like the most common chord progression. Whereas, I mean, we call it the 4 chords of pop, but it is in every single genre.
The Parker Bell. Have you seen the Parker Bell rant? It's a musical comedian, and it's like it's the same thing. I think it's the same 4 chords.
It's basically the same, mate.
Yeah,
it's not exactly the same chords, but it might as well be. It's close enough.
I'll have to send it to you because it's fucking hilarious. Dude has a breakdown. No, I think that's a very good point actually. You not wanting to get drawn too heavily into a specific composer's style, it means that you can sound like your own style.
I always worry that I sound like an asshole when I'm like saying stuff like that, but it's just like it's not that I don't like that music. It's just like I don't want to do that.
I want to make my own
myself.
thing. No, fuck yeah, I like it. I think it's great. Be more like that. Got a question from Arlene. How does it feel mixing the best Celine Dion cover in the world?
Whenever I do these shit posts, I seem to outdo myself.
That was fantastic.
I don't know where I'm going from there. That's going to be...
How can you top that?
I don't know.
At the end, it's just like, shit.
So that was very... I was very much channeling, with that entire thing, I was channeling Charles Cornell, who did like a bunch of like meme videos where like he was like taking like, he'd take like Cardi B Instagram ramblings and like he'd just play piano over them. Oh god, I love that shit. So like So yeah, that's what I'm basically doing when I
very high quality, like all good musical shitposts are. There's talent behind it as well. It's just
yeah, it's like
beautiful.
Sinos dogs and singing is very
dogs.
yeah, is just taking that idea of taking like normal, like everyday, I guess, sounds and just like turning them into music,
and like actually surprisingly good music.
Yeah, because I heard when Sino's dogs were just like going nuts, like, I could hear like there's a melody there.
There's a melody and there's a tempo.
There was a tempo.
It works with catch out.
Like, okay, I mean the only. Yeah, as Jimmy said, like the cat memes as well. Like I saw one recently. It was like it's a cat that's like drinking milk and meowing at the same time, and like there's this video of like this guy in Uzbekistan who just like plays like I don't know what the instrument's called, but like he just like makes like a song to this cat that's drinking milk, and then like I think TikTok just ran wild with it and turned it into like an entire jazz arrangement, and it's absolutely incredible. Yeah, no, I just love I love shit like that, and it's fun to have a go at it myself.
So good.
Another good one for that is I don't know if anyone knows about like when the celebrities all sang Imagine, and it was absolutely cringe. Charles Cornell, as I mentioned earlier, he almost saved it. It's still painful to listen to, but he did it as an arrangement. He put all 15 key changes and made like Imagine with with them singing. Like it's still terrible, but there's some honestly very nice key changes in there. Like I kind of want to hear Imagine done with like an actually good singer with that arrangement. Like that could be really interesting, actually.
Very good. All right, we got one more. I think this is we'll do this as a first thing that pops into your head. Snap answer. Finisher. Oh, no. That's not a scary question. Maybe it is. What's your favourite MIDI?
What, for me or
no? Just any MIDI. What's your favourite one?
Shit. Shit dot mid.
Shit dot mid. Yeah. Oops, all bongos.
Day of Morning by Stu Boy. I was talking about it earlier. It's the first one that pops into my mind right now. That'll do.
I think with those kind of questions, if something does rise to the top quite quickly, it's like that's probably close to it. Because for me, it's Infinite Sky. By Zach Siegel.
Yeah.
That's always like, nah, every time I ask me, like, what's your favourite MIDI? It's like, that one's right up there. Maybe some Knight Rider of Doom. But yeah, Infinite Sky is just a fucking progressive metal masterpiece.
Knight Rider of Doom is another great MIDI artist.
Very, very power metal oriented.
I sort of like, when I'm doing like that sort of power metal-y style, like I sort of channel him as well as Dragon Force. Because I mean, he's an old school Dragon Force fan.
Yeah, it comes out in its writing, definitely.
Yeah, like I think he was like following them like before they even released their first album, actually. So I think he's a moderator on Herman Lee's stream, actually.
Oh, really? Ha, that's very cool.
Yeah, no, like he's probably like around that scene. But yeah, no, yeah, really great MIDI artist. I want more stuff from him.
Very good. I think that is us. We have been going for a while. Some sound issues for Ty to deal with there, unfortunately, but it is what it is.
I'm not surprised, to be honest. Like, I was expecting
worse based on our previous history.
Honestly, yeah.
I was. It wasn't too bad. So hopefully Ty can weave a little bit of magic from his production chair. But there's definitely going to be that chunk to cut out. But that's all good. It's part of the fun. Anything you want to end on? Final thoughts?
Everyone should wishlist Stellar Valkyrie because it's going to be the best. It's going to be the best game ever made.
It's definitely going to be the best synthwave bird space game ever made.
Absolutely. Oh, there's so much competition as well. Like,
yeah, very, very crowded field. No, but in all seriousness, yeah, definitely go check out Stellar Valkyrie on Steam. They've got a Twitter account. It's called Space Bird Game on Twitter.
Space Bird Game, yeah.
Yeah, on Twitter, I think it's the handle. But if you search Stellar Valkyrie, it'll pop up. It's
follow me on Twitter. It's in my bio as well.
No, but definitely follow Tristan, who and you got your YouTube page as well.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, I need to get better. I need to get better at plugging the guests' various socials and whatnot. So they'll be in the notes on the podcast and the YouTube video as well. No, it's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. This is a lot of fun. I'm surprised you did it. You got me to talk.
I did. I knew I would.
For quite a long time. I'm a very quiet recluse, and yet here we are, 2.5 hours in.
I had faith.
Thank you for watching.
Cool. No, thank you. Thanks again to Tristan and the viewers. Like I said, follow Stellar Valkyrie on Steam. Go wishlist it now. Does it have a release date?
No.
Okay, cool.
When it's done.
When it's done, my favourite release date. That is the right answer. Is there a demo planned?
Yeah. There is a demo planned, but we don't really have a time frame solid yet. We're still in the process of making it.
I'll pay attention to the Twitter sphere and whatnot for announcements around that. I've been your host, Bridgeburner, and that is us for today. Thank you all for watching and listening, and we'll catch you next time.